obscure world of parking. We use it every day, but have we really capitalized on the intricacies of our industry? In this podcast, the Parking Network will go behind the scenes and talk to industry professionals about all things parking, from the horizon of evolving technology and even stories of the old days. We hope to encourage and inspire operators and property managers alike to look at parking through a new lens.
Hello and happy Halloween to all of you. It is October 31st, and this is a bonus episode of our Parking Industry Podcast, which for all of our faithful listeners, you know very well that this means it's a Stories from the Road episode. So Clyde Wilson is here to share with us a story from the olden days, and I will tell the listeners,
Not that old.
how old he'd like everyone to know. That there is a prop in this story, and I will be interrupting him to describe this to you when it happens in the story. Clyde, you have a sparkle in your eye and a spooky countenance about you. So tell me your story from the road.
Okay, well, this one was an interesting story right from the very beginning because it was a challenge first. So I got a call from a property manager, and this was actually in Houston, so it was exciting to me because we never did any work at home. We always traveled to everything we did. So this young lady was the property manager of really a high-profile building in downtown Houston. I recognized it right away as soon as she said who she was in the building. So she starts the conversation by saying, "The revenue in my garage is down." I told my parking operator, and they said it's just the equipment's bad, and that they had written me a letter 2 or 3 years ago telling me that I needed new equipment. And I didn't do it, and so the equipment's bad, and I need to buy new equipment. So I told the operator, well, the revenue's down, but the garage is full. It's as full as it ever was, so how can the revenue be down if the garage is full just because the equipment's broken? I think you need to find an auditor. So this particular parking company, and I won't mention any names, and we have Shiloh sitting in the background that will snip out any mistakes I make. So this particular parking company had a company that was not a professional audit company, but they did do audits. And they worked for this parking company. So they called them in to do an audit. So the young lady, the property manager, when she was on the phone with me, said, "If you want to see the audit, I'll give it to you." And I said, "Okay, I don't know that I generally like to read past work. I like to look at my own, but what does it hurt? Let me take a look and see what they've said." And she says, "Okay, so I'm going to send you that." And I said, "When you send it to me, would you also send me at least a week's worth of daily shift reports so I can just get a look at what the daily numbers are in this garage?" So she sends it to me, and I read the audit, and the audit is basically saying that there are tickets missing, about 85 tickets roughly every day, somewhere really between 100 and 80, 100 to 100 to 80, not 180, missing every day. And that the reason for it is very simple. All of the tickets that are missing were pulled between 7 and 9 o'clock in the morning when the monthly parkers are coming to work. So the equipment doesn't work. They've had to turn off the pass back on the card readers. So the monthly customers have figured out the pass back's turned off. I don't have to have my card in my hand to get in the garage. I can just drive up, pull a ticket, the gate goes up, I go in. But because the pass back's turned off, my card will still get me out in the evening. So the audit said all of the tickets that are missing are monthly parkers in the morning pulling a ticket to get in the garage. That's what's missing. So I'm looking at this going, there's still revenue missing. That doesn't tell me why there's revenue missing. And this young lady property manager I talked to on the phone was absolutely sure there's money missing in my garage. I know it's missing. I can tell the numbers are down, but the garage is still full. Clyde, that's only one thing can be happening. I'm losing money somewhere. So I looked at the audit. I looked at the shift reports, and I saw something on the shift report that I won't tell you yet. but it jumped off the page at me, and I said, well, that looks, so we'll figure that one out too. All right. So I have got to think through, how am I going to do this? I really didn't want to have to do a full audit. I didn't think a full audit was necessary. I really got one of those feelings that, like we get all the time. If you just go hang around the island, you're probably going to figure this out, right? So instead of telling her I need to do a full audit and going through all the stuff of a full audit, I decided I think I'm going to go hang around the island, but I've got to do this where nobody that's there knows who I am, right? So I go down and take a look. First thing I take a look is the garage is full. It's full. It's packed. And it's a 750 space garage. It is packed. So then I look, and it's got a big first floor. It's got a booth exiting onto a fairly main street. It's kind of over there. There's a lot of cars on the first floor. So I said, I think I can stand back here in the back and find an angle where I can see the booth. So let me just watch the cars in the afternoon during the exit, and let's kind of see the flow and see if there's anything that stands out. I have no clue what's going on here. All I know is there's money missing. That means there's a good possibility somebody's stealing something. And so I wanted to watch the flow of cars. And if there's all of these monthly parkers that are pulling a ticket to get in, I want to watch all of that exit flow from the monthly parkers and just kind of be sure this is all going on. So I stand back there in my nice little spot behind a car, and it's just not at an angle where she would ever, the cashier in the booth, would ever turn and look at me. She's in the booth, turning this direction from me. The cars are coming this way, so she has to look at the car and look at her cash register, but I'm over there. You can't see my computer, but I'm over there. So I'm not where she's going to look intentionally. So I can see it. So I'm fine. I'm looking. I said, I've got a good place. I think I can see pretty much everything that's going on here. So I'm kind of there watching. I'm there at about 3:00, and so I'm waiting and watching cars come and go. And then about 4:30, the afternoon rush starts. So the monthly parkers are coming out, and then a car comes out that's not a monthly parker, and she takes the money. I'm pretty far away. I see her, what looked like she took the money and took a ticket, and the gate went up. She didn't turn to the cash register. And I thought, did I miss something? So I must have missed something. The gate went up. I didn't see her turn to the cash register, but I know the gate went up, and I know she had cash. So I said, okay, I've got to get to a better angle here, but I'm going to watch this. And so then 4 or 5 monthlies come out, and then here comes another daily with cash and a ticket. So it was easy to watch and see the monthly parkers. These are proximity card exits. So you don't have to actually insert the card in the reader. You just have to come really close to it, and it reads the card. So you can quickly tell that's a monthly parker. They stick the card out the window as they're driving up. The reader, as I was saying, she's facing this way. The cards are coming this way. Well, the reader was right over there, about 2 arm lengths almost away from her. So the monthly parkers are driving up. They slow down there. They stick their card out the window. It reads their card, and the gate goes up. But if it's a daily parker, they have to come up even to her so that they can pay her. So it's pretty easy to tell who's going to be a daily parker. So I'm watching, and here comes the next one, and I realize this is a daily parker, but I'm still pretty far away. I see him hand her money and a ticket, and I see her take it, and I didn't really see everything, and the gate went up again. And I said, how did she do that? How did she get the gate? I know I saw something, but I didn't really see it. So I said, okay, I got to get closer. So I start moving closer through the first floor of the garage, just trying to walk to look like somebody walking through the garage in case she saw me. And I got close, and I got really close. And she does it. She's busy. It's afternoon rush. She's busy, so she's not looking over here. So here comes the next car, and it's obviously going to pay her. It doesn't stop at the proximity reader. It drives all the way up to the booth, hands her money, hands her the ticket, and lo and behold, I've never seen this in the parking industry. The fairy godmother showed up. We have, in the parking industry, a fairy godmother. The fairy godmother was at the booth, and she waved her magic wand. and the gate
There's
went
the prop, y'all.
She was the fairy godmother, and she waved the magic wand over by the card reader, and the gate went up. Just like I have here, she had a paint stick, and she had a proximity card taped on the end of the paint stick. And so for the people who were cash customers, she would steal the cash, swipe her card that was not in the system or was not on passback. She would swipe her card, and the gate would go up, and the people would go out. Now, as far as the customer is concerned, they paid her up. So there is a fairy godmother. We should all know this. In the parking industry, there's a fairy godmother, and she has a
Magic wands are real.
Real. They are real. I saw the magic wand. I saw the gate go up. So let's talk through the numbers a little bit of how good that magic wand is. I have mine. See, I looked at the numbers and said, I want.
Yeah.
There were 80. So let's back up. Remember when I said send me the shift reports and I saw something on there that didn't make sense? Well, I mean, we know in the parking business that parking garages have early birds. And this garage had early birds, but there were never more than 2 or 3 a day on the shift report. And I thought, okay, I've been in this business for a while. I've never seen a garage that was worthy of an early bird rate that only had 2 or 3. It's always a bigger number than that.
Mm-hmm.
So this early bird thing must have something to do with this story out in front of me that's looming, and I just don't know the answers to it yet. I still don't know about the fairy godmother, right? I just know that there's something happening. So here's what she was. So then go back to the audit. The audit said it must be monthly parkers because they're the ones that come in at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. Well, so did early birds. So she was stealing every one but 2 or 3 of the early bird transactions every day. And the early bird rate at that time was $12, and there was 85 early birds. Add that number up. It's a lot. That's about, I think, you're going to hit $220,000 of cash a year.
A year?
$1,000 a day.
$12 at a time.
That's why I have my magic wand. It's great. Oh, this story got worse. And I don't think I want to tell the worst part of the story because it involves the communication with the parking operator and the building owner, and how everybody, this was, I tell you what, this was one of those stories that the communications people, these guys did not communicate to her. They got in their head what was wrong. They didn't look at the reality. They got in their head that they needed new equipment, and they wrote her one letter 2 or 3 years ago that says we needed new equipment. And in this garage, it was going to be $207,000 at that time. And she said, I've got money missing. Why aren't you guys solving this problem? And they didn't communicate. She was ready. As soon as I then had to call her up and tell her about the magic wand, and then went up to see her and said, let's talk through this problem and figure out what we're going to do here. She was ready. I said, the problem is this equipment is run out its life. It wouldn't have changed this. This could have happened regardless of the equipment. But they used the equipment as the excuse to turn passback off, which made the excuse of it must be monthly parkers in the morning, and gave her a magic wand proximity card that was running up all these transactions every day, and nobody was noticing. She said, Clyde, if you think we need to buy new equipment and that will help us, I said, well, your equipment is bad. This problem could have been averted anyway, but your equipment is old and it's not working properly, so you need new equipment. She was ready. But if they had just communicated with her, and if they had have looked at what was going on more closely, then this would have all been solved by them. And instead, they got defensive. I wrote her the letter. Why didn't she buy us new equipment? But they didn't do a good job of communicating the problem and communicating the need and communicating how to solve this problem. If that had been communicated, it would have all worked. So then the part I really didn't want to tell, but I'm going to tell it anyway. We're in the meeting where she and I are there with the regional people for the parking company to tell them what we found. And they tried to, she was a relatively young property manager for the time. But I thought she was outstanding. She really knew what she was doing. They tried to turn this around and blame it on her. And it got to the point where I stood up and said, one more word and you guys are gone. Not only are you going to be gone out of this door, I'm not going to speak for her, but I'm pretty sure you're going to get kicked out of this garage tomorrow. And they sat down and shut up and listened, and we got it all. But it was interesting how such a simple problem turned into. I mean, this went on for over a year. I don't know how long this girl had been stealing, but $220,000 a year. I do remember the young lady told me that she noticed the revenue down a while ago, and then it was more than a year ago when she said the first time she said something about this. And then she just kind of kept harping on it that the revenue's down in my garage. And she said, so it's been a while. So fairy godmother, we have her in the parking business. I just never knew it. I would have never guessed that the fairy godmother really paid attention to the parking business.
She didn't need a costume. She had a disguise.
She had just, yes, she did.
Wow. Well, that's interesting. Part of our performance monitoring program is checking on operator cards and override cards and just helping our operators keep a pulse on how those cards are being used. So that story really shows me the importance of that oversight.
What you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
this would have been a pretty simple fix, and if the audit company had known what they were doing, they would have figured this out right away. But they didn't. I guess, fairy godmothers are pretty powerful, so they have a lot of influence.
$12 at a time.
Yeah, $12 at a time.
Well, to our listeners, a wonderful holiday. I hope you get out, have fun with your neighbors this evening. Thanks for joining us for this bonus episode of our Parking Industry Podcast, and we'll catch you next time.
To quote one of the greatest business minds of our time, Charles Munger, he said, "The best thing a human can do is help another human being know more." Here on our Parking Industry Podcast, we want to provide knowledge and resources. If you heard something that sparked your curiosity in today's episode, please reach out on our socials at TPN Consulting. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Don't forget to subscribe and follow. See you next time on our Parking Industry.